your lectures, so you get better marks that you probably are not deserving of. I'm sure if you start in your own little way to brighten your corner, eventually everybody around you will be able to use you as an example when you're engaged.
Madam, a quick question. Yes. Okay. Someone else. Okay. So there are questions in the house. Interesting. So what we'll do is, like I told you, her session is going to be an interactive one, so that if you have a question or anything of the sort, you raise your hand, you draw my attention, then we'll go on. But because I'm the MC, I start with mine. Thank you. So a couple of years ago, I'm going to talk about the part where you're referring to our choice of courses, and I want both you and then Madam Quist to attempt working on that. A couple of years ago, I started what I labeled as the High School Career Conference. And I was looking at the fact that if it hadn't been for my dad's close friend who had drawn my attention to the fact that I love creativity, the theaters and other stuff, and he made me aware that there's a course called Theater Arts in the university. I had no idea that there was anything like that. I didn't know that I could pursue drama further and all that. So I did, I took his advice, and I enjoyed what I did. Of course, it's been tough after school because I'm trying to do something on my own with that regard. When I started the High School Career Forum, the idea was that we'd get at least maybe 4 or 5 secondary schools, and then we have lecturers from the various universities come and talk to them about the varied opportunities in terms of courses that are available. The much more prestigious ones that we do. I don't know how it is in other countries. So that started, I had to do it on my own. I mean, I tried, they made me go through the GES, a long hassle, and we're supposed to have a counselor taking care of that, which is not happening. There are people that people don't even know. They don't know what's available in the universities. It's not that we don't know them. We have no idea that these courses exist. This railways thing you're talking about, this is my first time of hearing that you can study railway engineering in Ghana. You know, so the problem isn't really always about the fact that we don't want to or we are afraid, because I know there are very daring people who are here in Ghana and want to study things to make a difference. And you're saying that there are opportunities in that field and very few people are doing it. But how do we get to know if nobody makes us aware? Whose job is it to let us know that? And of course, I think it should be from the senior high school, probably even JHS, to let us know. And Madam Quist was referring to somebody who would write to you saying that, oh, my mother wants me to do this, my father wants me to do this, what do you think I should do? Sometimes, again, it's not really about the fact that they don't know what they have to do, but the availability of choices, what is available. How do I even know what I'm exceedingly good at? Whose job is it for us to know, and how do we get around this huge problem?
Well, I think that for your generation, you were probably a lot more luckier than we were at our time. Because in our day, we had career and guidance little rooms in schools. They go and ask. But I want to tell you, because in Form 3, you're supposed to decide whether you're going to the science class, the art, or whatever, something that you enjoy. I think it is for you to make it not just a hobby, but an opportunity that creates the growth, affords a decent job for someone. I mean, we've all been watching all of these drama productions by Uncle White. We also Uncle Lebo when he was struggling around the streets of Accra. Good. And then multimedia decided, oh no, it's a great opportunity to provide something for theater, entertainment for people who are interested in that sort of thing. And then there it was. Before that, even the center, what's the name of the place? The facility where they is and all this stuff. Absolutely. Most people when using it is largely for weddings. Now we have absolutely, yes. Now we have a lot of young people, we have women, we have this other poet who is all over the place. Brilliant guy. Absolutely. We have several of them who are making use of this opportunity. So as I said, you see, it's not so much that we're doing the wrong things or we're studying. Like some of these actors and actresses who have civil engineering degrees, who went to a Chimoto school, and they are acting and they are happily doing so. I watched a program recently and there was a medical doctor who sang her heart out and won the competition. Beautiful. We have great people who play tennis. I play a lot of tennis, but I never thought I was going to go to Wimbledon, but I enjoy it. My mom actually introduced, there was a cream when we were kids, but my mom used to work for Unilever for a while. It was called Nku Cream. She produced that cream on the desk in the house. So we all have an interest. We like to produce shea butter, little products from shea butter. I may not have time now to sell it, but I still do. Almost every month I have time when I just sit in that little kitchen and I try and experiment with all sorts of things that have to do with shea butter. I sell the ideas to my friends sometimes. I have a young lady who produces it for sale. And she loves it when I come up with all these things. Recently we tried out a wheat cream. And apparently it's doing very well. She actually developed it into a bar of soap. And she's relatively happy. I think genuinely it all depends on the individual. Like I tell you, there's some lawyers you never hear about.
Just a quick, how many of you have one of these? Who doesn't have one of these? What are you using it for? Communicate. And then what else? Research what? What was the last thing you researched?
Come again.
What was the last thing you researched?
I think before this conference.
What was the last thing? I don't remember when it was. What was the last thing you researched?
I researched on how to improve on local content.
Local content. Okay. That's the problem, right? Guys, honestly, I am as tough a boss as I am a mother. Honestly, if you hear me talking to my children who are all 13 and below, you wonder how is it possible to talk to children that have a sense of, our young people lack a sense of responsibility. Is it your job to craft your life? No one else's job. Your job, crafting your life is your job. So look for the information. You know, I appreciate that in our environment, things aren't as organized as they should be. But trust me, they are pretty well organized enough for you to find what you're looking for. That's why I use the phone as an example, because all our young people in the cities have a phone. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on blah, blah, blah. How much of that time is actually spent researching? How much of that time is spent learning something new? You know, Joyce talked brilliantly about, making cool products, which I watched a lot of YouTube videos about. I haven't attempted it. I've made gel and things like that. I haven't made the cream yet, right? My hair, I did it myself. When did I learn to do it? YouTube. YouTube. I run a company, but I learned how to do my hair. Because I don't want to spend all my Saturday in the salon. I want to do some of it and do other things in my house. Guys, we need to stop being lazy. If you talk about courses, let me tell you about myself. I didn't want to be an electrical and electronic engineer. I wanted to be a chemical engineer. Because here was my big idea. My big idea at the time when I was in school in Ghana was that I wanted to work in cosmetics. And we didn't have anything in cosmetics at the university. I studied science, I loved engineering, and I thought, okay, I know a lot of cosmetics contain petroleum or petroleum derivatives. So if I do chemical engineering, I will learn enough as an entry point into cosmetics. This was my big vision. And there were many people who discouraged me and said, nobody does chemical engineering, you only do it if you're born. I hadn't born, but I wanted to do it. That's what they tell you. They tell you do it if you're no good. Anyway, long story short, life took a completely different turn. I didn't study chemical engineering. I studied electrical and electronic engineering, which is what my father would have wanted, he wanted me to study, but I didn't want to study, but I ended up doing it. Anyway, my career has taken a completely different path, and I love technology. But the truth of the matter is that the creative instinct hasn't gone away, right? I told you I learned to do my hair. I have my own concoctions that I use with my hair, because I love it. But interestingly, responsibility, I tell young people that the course you study like an anvil tied to your leg that says, because I studied this is the only thing I can be in life. Right? I won awards for marketing. I'm an engineer. How does an engineer do? Right? And not all of that study is in a classroom setting. Some of it was, but some of that study is you dedicating yourself to understanding the art form and the tool or the new area of work. So let's break this rule. We don't live in a perfect situation. I give you that, right? We live in a situation where, listen to this statistic. The University of Ghana has existed for 70 years. Do you know that? I told you I love figures as well, right? The University of Ghana in 70 years has produced least one PhD in mathematics?
What?
Right? How many of you know someone who applied to mathematics? You know someone who applied? Oh, you did it? Okay, first degree. I didn't do a PhD. There you go. So that's the thing. And you see, the reason why this is important is, first of all, if I ask her more questions, she'll tell you there are only a handful of people doing mathematics. Exactly. And an even smaller handful are going to graduate. So who's going to do the statistical analysis we need to develop our country? Who's going to do the data analysis we need? When we don't have beds in hospitals, it's not a medical problem. Do you know that? A lack of beds and problems is a mathematical statistical problem. Because it means that we have failed in our ability to predict. You may say the government hasn't put money in it. Someone needs to tell, in this season you tend to need 20% more beds. In this season there's a cholera outbreak, this will happen, blah, 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 blah. And then you plan for it. What's my point? My point is that actually the demand for your skills, your ability, your competence far outstrips your supply. The world, if I talk about my area, which is STEM, the world actually has a net deficit in STEM. So our only PhD from mathematics in University of Legon, Ghana, is in Rwanda right now. He was recruited to Canada. He's worked for AIMS in Canada, and now he's in Rwanda. Right? Brilliant guy. I've met him. One. I think tech has produced a few more than the one, but one. 70 years. Honestly, the things we need to develop, we don't have and we don't have blah blah blah, we just need the people. We need the people to stop waiting for someone to say people. Get on with it. About this. You put one foot in front of the other, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, and you keep going. If you don't like the path you take, you turn left or you turn right or you turn around and you keep doing something. But you keep going to get there.
Joyce, I've listened to your more questions. So I think, okay, let me start with him. He has the spoken stage, and then you know how it goes, right?
This is the question. You mentioned patent. I went to the department to ask them for the process of registering a patent, and it was hell. It was like I was mad. Like nobody was understanding what I was talking about. And this is what Chris does. She deals with honey, but I want to do something on cube honey. But I want to have a patent on it, but nobody understands, or nobody was even willing to hear. They told you, go here, get this paper, do this. At the end of the day, you don't get it.
You know, don't worry. I tried it for clients many years ago. And I recall the frustration that I went through. If it matches, I knew exactly what I was about. But you see, it's straightforward. He would ask you to bring the mark. He would ask you to make several copies of it. I'm sure they told you all of that. Great. And then they would tell you they would have to send it to the United States of America, right? And then register it and bring it back to you. And that is at that point you decide that, look, I'm not interested in it. Now please don't give up. Now there's a small office at the Attorney General's Department. I'll give you a number when I'm leaving. If you speak to that individual, it's a lot easier than it was in my day when I tried to register a mark for a client of mine. Now I know just what to do, so it's not so hard. But I know what it means. They'll ask you for little designs, big designs, the color, the this, and you keep going and coming. But you see, there's a better way to do it. Once you're sure that this is the mark that you need, this is the mark you like, start straightening it. And when you go to register the business name, you register the mark as well, as part of the logo going with the business name. You understand? That gives you some modicum of protection. So it means that if you were ever asked or you see another person, because we've had that in several of our public institutions even, that have had similar logos, the best way to defend it is that at the time of registration of the business name, this was the logo that you had. Don't forget that sometimes the rights to a mark is not just the fact that you have registered the patent. It is also the number of years you have used it. Take it that a mark is identified as yours, that this mark is symbolic. For example, Voltic. Everybody knows what brand Voltic is now. So even if Voltic has not necessarily registered a patent to the name Voltic or that design, any day you go to the business registration department to register a company with that symbol, with that logo, you'll be told that it's already in use. So sometimes commonly used marks will be identified with a certain business, and so it means that another person will be able to register it. So you find, especially in the water industry, most of them will come up with a different color. Even if it's the same sort of little drop showing that spring water, they'll be red, it will be green. The reason that go and try and register it into the business. So that is another way of circumventing the long process. But don't forget that when there are some individuals who register an idea. So the patent is not necessarily to a logo or to a mark that is yours. It could be an idea you've generated. We have several individuals in the tech industry in America, in particular, some Ghanaians who have registered such copyrights to ideas that they generated for producing something, for developing something, for manufacturing something. But when it comes to business marks in particular, usage alone can constitute ownership. So when you go to register, if you really write a letter asking or applying for it, that letter should have the mark or the logo that you seek to register. And then of course it means there will going to be a system and another company will not be allowed to. It's the same with company registration names. Some people don't need a mark or a logo. You use your initials, for example, mine and JB, and you use JB. It means that every letterhead of yours has it. If I do go back there to register a company known as JB Limited, I'll be told that this name is already in use. Sometimes they'll be nice enough and help you with several other options. It is the reason why we are trying as much as possible to automate our systems too, because there is business. And this is part of the challenge, getting all of our laws, all of our regulations, all of our guidelines on an automatic system that allows you in the confines of your bedroom, using the little iPhone that Lucy actually showed to you all, to Google what is not, what is already in use, what you can use. Sometimes even depending on the product, you must have a mark that gives an idea to a customer or a client that this is what this product is about. Because certainly your logo should not be at variance with the business that you intend to do. It is why sometimes public institutions will open a competition so that individuals will bring them ideas. For example, Electoral Commission will throw it out to students who would think of what connotes an election, what connotes a peaceful election, what sort of logo would Ghanaians want to see when you speak to elections. So your mark must also be representative of what it is you intend to manufacture, to sell, and whatever. So as I said, a country of many beautiful legislations.
Thank you. Can we give a round of applause, please? So now this is why I like interactive sessions, because we could go on and on and on and we won't get tired of it. But unfortunately, we're going to have to kill this one with just one more question. Okay, so Nancy has it as the question today. I'll give her the opportunity, and then so I think we want to see you properly because of your. It's not okay for me. Today is Culture Day for our guests, so everybody is dressed as where they come from. And Nancy is from Kenya. I think we have Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and a few other countries. See your question.
Mine is not even a question as such, but okay, sorry. Mine is not a question as such, but something I'd like you to shed a light on, especially having this opportunity that I've met you as women in leadership. There is something I'd like you to comment. I'm a communication person for National Land Commission, and we face challenges in starting our duties during day to day, especially as women. I know most of us, we understand most of the barriers we face as women in leadership, or women striving to climb up the scale, especially when it comes to barriers in culture and the rigidness in culture shift. I know you've come a long way while coming up and trying to be professional and develop your careers. Maybe you can just shed a light on some of the challenges you faced while upskilling
their guy and then you will take it from there. You know, it's a question that I've never able to actually pretty much understand, to explain, or even to actually, answer. I come from a long line of women. My mother was one of the very first women to actually head the women's institution in Ghana. Yes. So for us, as a family of 6 daughters and just a brother who is the youngest of us all, it's very difficult for someone like issue like that. From time immemorial, we have great examples of very strong women. I tell people a story about how I went to Wesley Girls High School and how I studied law eventually. It was because I'd gone for a program like yours as a little girl, about 11. And then the present local government minister, Madam Hajia Halima, had come there for some, which was a student in Quist. Those days, I think after law school, you want to do national service before you go back for the qualifying law certificate course. So she wasn't a lawyer, but she had an LLB degree. She appeared there in jeans, and this was this very well endowed female. Spoke her heart out. And I just sat there thinking, gee, that one huge woman. I mean, look at all the plenty. I didn't even understand half of the things because I'd gone there with my big sister, who was probably looking more like my aunt than my sister. And even that room, all those years ago, it actually stayed in my mind that I wanted to be like this woman. And I remember when I was nominated as the deputy minister, I hadn't heard from her in years. Out of the blue, I got a phone call from somewhere in Sierra Leone. Joyce, I said, who's this? And I didn't know the voice. It's me, Haji Halima. I said, oh, hi. Ages. Oh, I'm so proud of you. I watched your betting. That's beautiful. So sometimes you'll be surprised at people that actually affect your life as you go along. It could be your parents, your family friend, your neighbor. Sometimes depending on our environment, some are a little bit more, there are more opportunities for you to see these examples than others. I was telling my son a few days ago, my first teacher was an English woman who had married a Northern man and come to Tamale. And he was the only student when my father arrived from Australia and lived in Tamale. There was a very small government estate at the time, so every expatriate lived in that estate. So we all knew each other, were sisters and brothers. You could only go and play in your next door neighbor's house. And her school was actually her kitchen. But of course, he did one thing. Great vocabulary. Could speak great English, read good books, and that's all we did. He even learned to love dogs because she had dogs all over the house. Her husband was a lawyer and a man from the UP tradition. So then the political interest too was generated just by going to study at someone's kitchen table. So for me personally, talking about barriers, I would advise you, it's all about your attitude. If you have a great attitude, it is half of the job. If you have great examples, even better. Why would you go into a room and see yourself as that female who is held back by culture, by tradition, when you are just as good as the men you met in the room? Better qualified maybe, smarter maybe, more confident maybe. So it really shouldn't make a difference whether they're all men or all women. I have always had the misfortune of going into the job and everybody I find is a man. So my friends tell me all the time, oh, you don't even act like a woman, you look very hard. Sometimes you are even tomboyish. All in all, it's a day's job, great job. So I think generally I tell young people it's about your attitude. Why should a man intimidate you if you have the same degree, the same qualification? She's married, she has kids, she has a great job, she's a career woman. Pretty much same for me. Some may be single mothers, there's nothing wrong with that. There are several single mothers who are way at the top, doing amazing things. Some are married and don't even have kids. Same. Having children should not define you as a woman. You don't get married because you want to have children. So we have to work towards preventing these little things from affecting our lives negatively. And as I always say, the sky is a limit.
So before you speak to answer, just about 2 days ago, Juliet Asante put something on Facebook that at CNN, women who are at the same level with men receive less salary. BBC, Price, thank you for the clarification. I'm asking that because of the question she's asking, so that you find a way to incorporate it in that.
Okay. Guys, listen. First of all, another round of applause for Joyce. I told that the person sitting next to you should hold them accountable. I wasn't joking. When she was in lower 6,000 from 5, same school. So you will see the same people along the way. Let me assure you of that. You know, this gender issue, I might step on someone's toes. Rub your toes if they're stepped on. You need to be able to discern the elements that are a Western problem and what's an African problem. You know, I keep having these debates with people. They read things and they hear things and they suddenly imbibe them. Right? Discrimination against women in education is a Western issue. Do you know that? Do you know that in the United Kingdom, boys were in schools for centuries? I'm not talking years. Centuries before girls were allowed to go to school. Do you know that? And in those centuries, while their girls were being held behind, we had women leaders. Do you know that? Do you know that? Yes, Santa wasn't the only Ashanti queen mother who was powerful. In Ashanti tradition, you can't name a king without the queen mother. Have you read about the Angolan princess who opposed colonization in Angola? Have you read about it? You've nodded, right? And you know, you learned about how when she went to meet the Portuguese colonizers, he was sitting on the throne and he laid out a rug for her, expecting her to sit on the rug, and she refused. So one of her attendants knelt over and created a seat for her so that they would negotiate eye to eye. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's your carte blanche and everything is perfect, but we've always had women in leadership. In fact, many African cultures have held women in very high regard when it comes to leadership. You know, I'm half Ashanti, so I like talking about Ashanti traditions. That is why you have things like dancing crime. Have you noticed that the whole idea is to create this uniform look where a woman in dancing crime and the way she's dressed is no different from a male leader. They look exactly the same and hold exactly the same amounts of power. So what we've inherited through Western education is a discriminatory system that is being corrected. So the same happened in Ghana, right? When the schools were started in Ghana, our school that we went to was started, this was the premise. If you didn't go there, you won't know. The missionaries arrived, and the missionaries decided to set up a boys' school. It was a school for boys, because boys go to school. And his wife, Mrs. Wrigley, decided that she would organize the girls around Cape Coast, teach them needlework and how to iron. Seriously, Wesley Girls was started as a training home. It wasn't a school. Teach them how to iron and, you know, the things that will make them good wives. And then over time, they realized that these girls were actually good with their work. And that's how it became a school, such an old school and a school of repute. In fact, when it was set up as a school, Wesley Girls was set up as a home. Because Western education dictated that girls and boys go to school, girls don't. So even today in the UK, the top secondary schools in the UK, honestly, the absolute top ones, right, when you hear of Eton Harrow and these, you know those names. Do you know the equivalent for a girls' school? No, because the equivalent doesn't exist. Because those schools uniquely have an application and entry process as the most stringent in the country, but it's only for boys in 2017. So you have to understand which problems you have inherited that are not your own, and which ones are real, and which ones have become mixed up. So back to the question of employment. Actually, I don't believe, and I've heard this also from, I forget her name, but the doctor who leads one of the units at Women, and she said the same thing, that women are not discriminated against in salary in Ghana. Yes, so we hear other people's problems, and because CNN and BBC said it repeatedly, we assume it's our problem too. We need to question what we hear. We need to challenge what we hear. I've heard it, I believe it, but hearing it from someone, people in other professions, senior people in in other professions means it's the case. Does it mean that I'm saying we're perfect and we have a perfect system? No. I'm saying let's understand what our real challenges are, what our real problems are. Don't fix someone else's problem, fix your own first. Right? And so Joyce said it all. Don't let somebody tell you you're a woman. Of course you're a woman, that's your gender. But what about all the other things you are? All the other things, she talked about life experiences with the journey you come through, all the other things that make you who you are. You should put those much further forward than show up and say, I'm a woman. And I'm not saying you say that, but your body language, your demeanor, the way you put yourself across, does that. And then that guy who has also been taught by someone to discriminate will do it. But the problem is, when you allow yourself to be discriminated against, it's not just men who discriminate against you, other women will too. So hold your own yourself. You are you. Gender is one of the things you are. You're not other things. Be all of those things, not just some of those things. And don't all of you, not some of you.
We need all of you, not some of you. So the gender is just one of the many things that you are. Now, before I close the chapter of this bit, I want to invite equally personally admire so much and have so much respect for. And we're going to be having our breakout session.